Welcome back, everyone, to the 4 for 4 YouTube channel. We're here to get you ready for fantasy football season. I'm Mike Randle. You can follow me on Twitter at RandleRand, and make sure to hit the subscribe and the like button here for all the great content that we have for you here at 4 for 4. Today, I am honored and excited to share with you my thoughts on 4 players who I think ADP is way too low. Today, I'm going to focus on roster construction and making decisions. It's risk assessment in your fantasy football leagues, but I'm specifically talking about redraft today. Redraft leagues, and I'm going to give you one player from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end who I think have an ADP that is so low, it's a huge value, and they give you upside. So let's get into it here, folks. Starting with quarterback. I am a firm believer in not drafting QBs early. Now, listen, you may want to draft one of these Konami code quarterbacks early. I have no problem with that. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, but their ADPs are higher. So it's a risk assessment. Do you want to sacrifice what you can get at those rounds for a running quarterback? If you hit it right, it's a home run and you have a huge advantage over your league mates. But if you're like me, I'm just hesitant to burn that early round capital because look at these running quarterbacks. Kyler Murray has struggled in the second half of the year, and when he's even slightly injured, he doesn't run. Lamar Jackson, of course, receiving weapons. Josh Allen is gold, but he's going very, very early. Even Jalen Hurts, who did not have a ton of touchdown passes last year, and there's still some unknown about his passing ability, even with A.J. Brown now on the team. So if you're looking for a quarterback here that is going to be a late round quarterback that I think has upside to be a top 10 or even top 8 quarterback, I am going with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins currently is QB 15 on Underdog Fantasy. There means he's a chance in your redraft leagues. He may not even get drafted. In a lot of your leagues, there's only one quarterback. You're talking about 2 quarterback leagues, Superflex, different story. But in your traditional PPR or even standard, if there's some of you out there who still do standard, quarterback leagues, Kirk Cousins is a focus. He was buried in Mike Zimmer's student body left, student body right run offense. They hammered the running game unless they were trailing. In 2019, that Vikings offense ranked 5th in the NFL with 29.2 rushing attempts per game. In 2020, Vikings ranked 8th with 29.3 rushing attempts per game. And last year, they did drop to 26.4 rushing attempts, but that was sort of skewed as those last 3 contests, the Vikings saw that they had to start throwing more, and they only rushed 18.3% of the time. Now we have Kevin O'Connell coming over from the Super Bowl champion Rams. Reports are that this new Viking offense is pass happy. That is great news for Cousins, who has not operated in an offense like that in Minnesota. He's already one of the most efficient QBs in the NFL. He always has high 60s in pass completion percentage, and he's ranked top 10 in passing yards and yards per attempt while with Minnesota. He ranked 5th and 6th in true passer rating the last 2 years, and he does have those superior weapons across the board. He is Justin Jefferson, the most receiving yards in the first 2 years of any receiver in NFL history. He has Adam Thielen, death, taxes, and touchdowns for Thielen. Irv Smith is returning, and KJ Osborne has been solid. And of course, the key to me is that you have Dalvin Cook coming out of the backfield, catching passes as a prolific receiving running back. As John Daigle and John Pawson talked about on the Most Accurate podcast here at 4 for 4, Minnesota had the 4th highest run play rate in neutral game scripts the past 2 years. We should expect more 11 personnel with O'Connell there. Irv Smith, KJ Osborne, Dalvin Cook, all of those options are going to be on the field more, and Cousins is going to have the weapons to choose from. Redraft leagues are a weekly battle. You need to view the matchups per week. So what I like about Cousins is you have a solid high floor quarterback. He threw for 2 or more touchdowns in 8 of his last 9 games in each of the past 2 seasons. So while you may not be getting the upside, what you're getting with Cousins is a solid producing quarterback. And since you could wait on him in redraft leagues, the opportunity cost of having an extra running back, wide receiver gives you that flexibility. His rushing upside is minimal, but the possibility of that increased passing volume with O'Connell at his current QB 15 ADP is too enticing to pass up. Take a look at this, folks. Cousins is going 4 QB spots after and almost 2 full rounds after Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford, not a running quarterback, had a fantastic year, Super Bowl champion. I get it. but he has a similar profile and a much higher opportunity cost because he's probably going to have to get him earlier, and you're not sure that his production is going to be that much better than Cousins. JJ Zacharyson mentioned that the Rams last year, 80% of their touchdowns came through the air, so there could be some rushing touchdowns regression that positively that's coming for the Rams, which would take away from Stafford. Stafford had 41 passing touchdowns last year, second most in the league. He's coming back to the pack. Kirk Cousins, to me, the quintessential high floor, solid ceiling play that you can't match the running quarterbacks on a weekly basis, but his bottom barrel ADP allows you the flexibility with a bigger delta that you can get value and get a stronger core of running backs, wide receivers, or even tight ends. Even if Cousins has a QB 6 to 10 season, you're hitting huge upside and you got a huge advantage on your competition. So my first value here, quarterback, Kirk Cousins. Next up, running back. This player's ADP is mystifying to me. I want you to close your eyes. You doing it? Good. There is a team that averaged in 2018 the most rushing yards per game. In 2019, the sixth most rushing yards per game. In 2020, they were still 12th in rushing yards, and last year they were 9th. Over the last 3 games of 2021 last year, they averaged 212 rushing yards per game. The lead back from this team was a former 7th-round draft pick, so he had no draft capital, and the team stayed loyal to him despite the fumbling issues. Regardless of that, he got the carries. Now, the team has seen a significant downgrade at quarterback. They have a healthy former first-round running back, a first-round pick in their backfield who's going to be leading it. He was finally healthy at the end of last year, and this running back posted RB3, RB9, RB1, and RB4 performances in 4 of the past 5. They still have this player who's 26 years old. He runs a 4.46 40 at 226 pounds. He was a talented receiver in college, so he can catch passes. He had 34 receptions his last 2 years and over 11 yards per catch in college. That running back, despite being the clear RB1 this year, entering the season, is currently going, are you ready, RB35 on Underdog Fantasy. He's getting drafted around 9 and 10. Ready? Open your eyes. It's Rashaad Penny. Now, I see that reaction. You're like, well, the wins, Seattle isn't great, and the Seahawks offense isn't great, but there's no Russell Wilson. I understand there's offensive line issues, but as per Bob Condata, who I interviewed on the 4 for 14 preview series, he said Penny is the clear, no doubt, #1 starting running back in Seattle. He's going 7 positional spots past rookie Kenneth Walker, who, according to Condata, is simply competing for that backup role. He's a 2nd-round pick from Michigan State. He's got to earn the trust of Pete Carroll and the coaching staff, and we know that's difficult. Why do we know that? Because Rashaad Penny had to earn it in order to unseat 7th-round pick Chris Carson. So it's not going to happen that way in any other way than the way we're looking at with Rashaad Penny. I'm old enough to remember when Rashaad Penny was supposed to threaten Chris Carson, and it didn't happen, even when Carson started fumbling. So the only way to me that Rashaad Penny fails to beat this ADP is with a massive injury, which is a risk for any running back, including Jonathan Taylor and, of course, Christian McCaffrey in round 1. The difference is at this ADP, you can draft him. If he gets hurt or he busts, he does not hurt the overall construction of your team. And if he's healthy, he's close to a lock for 20 touches per game, which is what he had each of the last 4 games if you look at an average last year. And he's getting drafted after Melvin Gordon, who's sharing touches with Javonte Williams, Cordarrelle Patterson, who certainly has some risk as a 30-plus-year-old breakout last year, and his own teammate Kenneth Walker, who still is a rookie. If you go 0 RB or you go hero RB and you want to wait for the 2nd or 3rd running back, the answer is Rashaad Penny. Minimal risk with huge reward. Now let's move to wide receiver. This wide receiver choice is a bet on regression. What I am looking for here is regression from last year and an improvement with the quarterback. The improvement for Mac Jones is coming in his 2nd year. There's a bias against quarterbacks that don't run. Mac Jones, that bias has gone too far. Per Player Profiler, he's ranked 8th in play action completion percentage last year, 7th among our quarterbacks in red zone completion percentage, and 2nd at the position in pressured completion percentage. He also completed 87% of his passes against zone defense. That's #1 among all quarterbacks. He's accurate. And who's an accurate quarterback's best friend? The slot receiver. Jakobi Meyers ranked 11th among all wide receivers in slot snaps last year, and he enters season 4 as an undrafted free agent. He carried the following wide receiver rankings as a guy who worked his way up from being undrafted. Last year in 2021, he ranked 20th in targets, 126, 16th in receptions, 83. And this includes that game, remember, against Buffalo, where Mac Jones only threw 3 times in that early game in December. The other argument for Meyers comes from positive touchdown regression. He only had 2 all season. New England has the 8th hardest strength of schedule per opposing Vegas win totals, which could trigger more negative game scripts, which could trigger more passing for a Patriots team that is no longer the king of the AFC East with Buffalo there. Will Meyers be limited from like a high-end wide receiver to a New England scheme? Absolutely. With Devontae Parker on the outside? Probably. But he will also get more favorable coverage underneath, and he's currently going as the wide receiver 36 right now. He's not even a top 24 wide receiver, so you're looking at value here from Jakobi Meyers, a receiver that should absolutely beat his ADP and could be a low-end wide receiver too if he just gets some more touchdown regression and the New England pass attack has to increase. Last player I'm going to talk about here, tight end Gerald Everett of the Chargers. What do we have in Gerald Everett? We have a quintessential post-hype sleeper. A lot of us liked him last year in redraft leagues. That's actually better than the person who was there last year. He's still only 28 years old. He has second-round draft capital and athletic measurables that jump off the chart. 4.62 speed. His burst score per player profile are 94%. Great catch radius. Jared Cook was not dominant there. He didn't fire as much as we thought he was going to do when he was there. Now I think we have a chance to get that with Gerald Everett. He's reunited with the coaching staff that he used to have over in the Rams. He came over here with the Chargers. He's now there with Staley. They're going to have that connection. I think there are targets available. You have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, of course, consolidated target share, get the majority of targets. But Everett is coming off a year where even though he disappointed in the fantasy community, he had a career high in targets, 63, receptions, 48, receiving yards, 478, and even touchdowns 4 while operating in the run-heavy Seattle attack, which we talked about with Rashaad Penny. Justin Herbert last year ranked 5th among all quarterbacks in red zone pass attempts, giving Everett the perfect opportunity to destroy that tight end 18, 156 ADP. I love Everett at this price point. Again, low risk, high reward, top 10 tight end finish is well within his range of outcomes. And let's tell ourselves a story. Keenan Allen, over 30 years old. Mike Williams, are we sure his production is going to be consistent? He just signed a 3-year, $60 million, $40 million guaranteed contract. Would I be shocked if he regressed a little bit now that he got paid? Absolutely not. Gerald Everett at tight end, athletic measurables, offensive upgrade, better quarterback, better offensive play, low ADP, meaning low risk, high reward. Those are my 4 players here that I think you should take a look at in redraft leagues. Kirk Cousins at quarterback, Rashaad Penny at running back, Jakobi Meyers at wide receiver, and Gerald Everett. Don't give up, truthers. Gerald Everett here for the Chargers. I'm Mike Randle for 4for4 Football.